third person point of view review for Up in the Air about George Clooney
I already hate it.
and his addiction to traveling and collecting points.
It's really. I love that you got out of it collecting points.
Status.
It's like his lifestyle of
having-
not being, like, not having a family and a home, and how some people, it's kind of glamorous in some ways, and in some ways it's unfulfilling.
His thing is he thrives on knowing he can have everything he owns carried in
A suitcase.
Yes, and even sometimes like less.
Yeah. Like, there was, like, segments on packing.
Yeah, and he just wants everything basically to fit in his wallet. That's not his articles of clothes.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Jason Reitman film. His father, Ivan Reitman, invented Ghostbusters. And
He invented it?
I'm just gonna say that. I'm just gonna give him credit for inventing
He
it.
directed it?
Yeah, he directed
He
it.
didn't write it, though.
I don't know. Beacon Rewind claims that Dan Aykroyd wrote it, so I'm not really sure who wrote it. Bill Murray wrote it for all I know.
I wish you wrote it.
I wish he wrote this too.
I wish somebody didn't write this. This movie is for women over 40 to still have hope that you're going to meet a man. That's what this movie is. And that's what George Clooney is. And that's all that this movie is about. Because all it is, we got to tie Mr. Clooney down. Who's going to be the one to tie Clooney down? This was made for women over 35 who are single, who have careers and don't have families, and who want to eventually maybe start that in their 50s. And George Clooney gives those people hope in this film. And this film pissed me off.
Is that why it pissed you off? Because it was pandering to those people? Giving
Well,
them
it
what
could
they
have been,
wanted?
I guess it could have been one of those cutesy films that it didn't matter how old anybody was. But, I mean, like Meet the Fockers and stuff like that. I mean, they seemed like everyone was, like, a lot older.
Yeah, it was trying to have heavier tones than a straightforward comedy like that. Or
And
The
you would
Proposal.
understand, like, what's his face from The Proposal, if he had this
Ryan
lifestyle.
Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, if he was this character and he was this young person, right? Like, this lifestyle wouldn't be such a big deal. I think the thing about it was that he was so much older, the woman he met was so much older, that it was for that sort of audience. And then that young naive girl is just thrown in there for people my age, just because we're young and naive and we don't know anything about living in a suitcase. When in actuality that's all people do when they go to university.
For me, the film had too many themes. Because along with all that, there was the whole big plot of firing people. And their job was firing people, and that you knew his character, he was an aging man who was coming to the end of his job, and he was watching his job be depleted at the same time that he was firing people.
Mm-hmm.
And he was struggling to keep his job the way it was.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. So, like, that, and that's the thing too. It's really, this was made for people of a certain age, and maybe that's the
that
thing
can relate to those characters.
and maybe that's the thing about what I guess is what I wanted differently out of it, is that as much as Juno is about a young woman having a baby and stuff like that, and about her life choices and all that stuff and what she's gonna do, it still was for everybody. You still had a good balance of age groups, a good balance of characters, that you didn't feel like it was just made for somebody over the age of 35 who's single and has never been, never in a committed relationship or something.
It was better than what they were given to do. Like the lady who was from Departed played the older lady, or kind of older.
Over 35.
Right.
She
Yeah.
was like in her 40s, and that's what it just felt like. Yeah.
And then the dialogue she was given, the stuff she was given to do, could have been done by anybody, and she held it together. And Clooney held it together with his acting, but
but it could have been Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean though? Like, nothing really stand out about the
Could have
woman.
been Winona Ryder.
Yeah, it could have been, and that's the thing too. With this thing, it was like, it wasn't even about the women that were in his life. The women could have been interchangeable. They could have been any age, but still, it was just like how it, like, just seems like because George Clooney's so older now, like so much older now, it just seems like he's just there now to give you hope, like that, because there's no.
He's playing himself.
Bachelor who is in his, who's like all 50. That seems like all this movie was, and I really expected it to be.
For an Oscar contender, you
cutesy.
certainly.
I just expected it to be at least cute, or at least like affect me in some way. But I just felt like I was just watching a bunch of old people try to figure their life out. When really, at this point in your life, like, please, I hope you have some of this shit figured out.
They had one scene, spoiler, where it just basically shows how they meet the two adult characters. And
the older characters.
The older characters, opposed to the young girl. They met in a really sleazy way, and it seemed like it's a way that they had.
That's their lifestyle.
Yeah, their lifestyle, and they've done this before, but yet they don't show that again in the movie. And I really felt that was something that they introduced that they just skipped over, where their character had some bad flaws, and they never really focused on them.
Maybe I just wasn't at 30, wasn't old enough for this movie. But it really made me really feel like this was, like, I've seen this character so many times before, and not necessarily George Clooney. It could have been Brad Pitt. It could have been any older actor. I mean, it could have been Jack Nicholson, 78 years old,
exactly.
living this lifestyle, And if he was as good looking as George Clooney, and yet, like, it would just give ladies hope. When it's like, I don't know if people even think like that. It was like they had the minds of high school students, but the bodies of 50-year-olds.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because especially, too, after finding out, that I'm not going to spoil it, but after finding out what you find out about the woman he's dating,
which is a good reveal, but that's obvious.
Yeah, but then why have her sit down with him and be so motherly with the young girl, right? Like, that's just like, she's obviously has some issues that she's not resolved.